Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
Okay, so have you ever sat through a presentation that just felt like an absolute slog? You know, the kind where you're fighting to stay awake, let alone actually learn anything?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That's the classic presentation problem, isn't it?
Right.
Just failing to really engage the audience.
Right. And that's actually what we're diving deep into today. We're looking at a way to actually flip the script on those presentations. We're going to turn them into these really dynamic, interactive experiences. And the technique is called, get this, the celebrity interview. And it's part of this fascinating toolkit called Liberating Structures.
Liberating Structures, yeah, I've heard of them. It's all about like simple but powerful ways to just unleash everyone in a group, right?
Exactly. I love thinking about it as a set of tools to just totally transform how meetings, workshops, even presentations work, go from passive to participatory.
So no more death by PowerPoint.
No more death by PowerPoint. That's the dream. The celebrity interview is all about ditching those lectures and embracing a format that feels a lot more like, a talk show.
A talk show. That's interesting. I like it. But it's not just about entertainment, right? It's got to have some substance. How does it unlock that deeper level of engagement and understanding?
That is a great question. And I'll admit, even though I'm familiar with liberating structures, the celebrity interview is kind of new to me. What is it that makes this structure so unique?
Well, picture this. You've got a leader, an expert, anyone who has some valuable knowledge to share.
Yeah.
Now, instead of putting them on stage for, like, a monologue, we're going to create a space for a more casual conversational interview.
Okay, yeah, I'm following so far. But what about the audience?
That's the really cool part. The audience gets to play an active role in shaping the conversation.
Whoa,
Yeah.
hold on, I gotta stop you there. Casual conversation.
Mhm.
I mean, doesn't that risk things going off topic or just getting too superficial? How do we make sure we actually cover those important points, achieve specific outcomes?
That is a great question, and it actually highlights why structure is so important here. We want a relaxed atmosphere, sure, but celebrity interview follows a clear 5-step framework. It's like, think of it as a recipe. We have all these great ingredients, and we combine them in this specific sequence to, create something amazing.
A recipe for success. I'm listening. Okay, let's break down those 5 steps, starting with number 1. Structuring the invitation. Why is this step so crucial?
Well, think about it this way. You're inviting someone to be a celebrity for a day. It's kind
Yeah.
of fun,
Yeah.
right? But the invitation really sets the tone. So we want to make it super clear. This isn't a formal presentation. This is a chance for them to share their expertise and their personal stories in a way that's, relaxed, engaging.
So ditch the corporate jargon and all the formalities, right?
Exactly. It's all about authenticity. We want their real voice, their perspective.
Love it. Makes total sense. Okay, so we've sent out our awesome invitation. What's next on our celebrity interview recipe list?
All right, so next up, we've got to think about space and materials. And remember, we're going for that talk show vibe. So think comfortable seating, maybe even some bar stools to make it feel casual.
I love it. Dim the lights, cue the music.
Okay, maybe not quite that far. We definitely want a good atmosphere, but the real focus is on the conversation, the interaction between the celebrity and the audience. And that's where our next key ingredient comes in. The trusty 3x5 cards.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The index card, always there to save the day. What's their role in a celebrity interview, though?
These cards, they're the audience's secret weapon. Everyone gets to jot down their questions throughout the interview. It's about making sure everyone's voice is heard.
That is so cool. So no more awkward silence when it's like, any questions? Everyone's already armed and ready.
Exactly. Which takes us to our next step, participation.
Mhm.
This is where the celebrity interview really shines because everybody gets involved. We're creating a real exchange of ideas, perspectives, all of it.
Yeah, it's about empowering people to actively shape the conversation. No more just sitting back and listening passively.
You got it. And that leads us to our next step, group configuration. Picture
Yeah.
this. Instead of just listening to the interview as this big group, we're going to break into smaller groups
Yeah.
so people can brainstorm, share their thoughts on what they're hearing.
Oh, I love that. You can just feel that energy building, right? People connecting, sparking ideas off each other. It's like a mini think tank.
It is. And these smaller groups, they add a whole other layer to the experience. It makes things more personal. It's a chance for people to really connect, reflect on what they're hearing.
Okay, so we've prepped our celebrity guest. We've got our stage set. The audience is armed with questions. We've got those mini think tanks going. What's the final step? The step that brings it all together.
All right, so the fifth and final step is sequence and timing. So we're going to start with a quick welcome, just to set the stage. Then we'll dive into those engaging interview questions, really encourage the celebrity to share their expertise, their personal stories, all of that. And then we move into the audience-generated questions. And this is where things can get really interesting. You get all these different perspectives, deeper insights, and finally we wrap up with those key takeaways and, importantly, a call to action.
I can totally see how this structure keeps the energy going. It builds and builds. It's like an experience, not just a presentation.
That's exactly it. It's dynamic, it's interactive, and it can be really transformative, both for the celebrity and the audience.
Okay, so I'm convinced the how of the celebrity interview is awesome, but what about the why? Like, what are the real benefits beyond just making presentations more fun?
Well, that's actually where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. We're going to explore those deeper reasons why this format is so effective and how it can be used to actually achieve those specific outcomes.
Yeah.
Outcomes that go way beyond the typical, stand and deliver presentation.
All right, listeners, stay tuned. We're just getting started. All right, so we're back and we're diving even deeper into the celebrity interview. And I'm really curious about this why behind the structure. Like, it seems like there's something more going on here, right? It's not just about, like, changing up the format.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The celebrity interview, it really taps into how we learn as humans, how we connect.
Okay, color me intrigued. Tell me more about why it's so effective.
Well, think about it. How have we been learning for, I don't know, centuries? Stories.
Stories, okay.
Storytelling. It's just like hardwired into our brains.
Yeah.
It's how we make sense of things, how we connect, how we remember information.
So the celebrity interview, it's not just about, like, spitting out facts and figures. It's creating an experience where the celebrity can share their knowledge through stories.
Exactly. When we hear those personal stories, I mean, our brains, they just light up. We're more engaged. We empathize. We remember the information so much better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know I'm way more likely to remember something if there's a good story attached to it. You know what I mean? Like a real life example.
Right. And another thing, it ties into like adult learning principles. Adults learn best when they're actively involved, when they can ask questions, share their own experiences, make those connections to their own lives.
So it's like hitting all those sweet spots, both in terms of how our brains work and how we learn best.
It is. It's like the perfect recipe. I guess we're still on recipe metaphor, but it's that perfect blend of engagement and the effectiveness. And because the audience is so involved, they feel like they own the process.
Right. It's not something that's being done to them. They're a part of creating it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that actually brings us to another important piece of this, group dynamics. Yeah. When we break into those smaller groups, it creates this space where people feel safe to share their thoughts, to ask questions, maybe even challenge each other's assumptions.
Totally. So it's not just about, like, the sage on the stage. It's tapping into the collective wisdom of the entire group.
And, you get those aha moments. You get these new perspectives that might not have come up in a larger group setting.
It's amazing how it all comes together. The storytelling, the adult learning principles, the group dynamics. It's like a recipe for a truly powerful learning experience.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's great. This isn't just theory. We've seen some amazing results with this. I mean, real-world examples where organizations, communities are using this to tackle some pretty tough challenges.
Ooh, okay. Now you're speaking my language. Can you give us some examples, like how it's been used successfully in the real world?
Sure. I've seen it used for things like launching new initiatives, onboarding new employees, even resolving team conflicts.
Wait, back up. Team conflicts. How did they use the celebrity interview for that?
Well, imagine a team, right? They're having communication issues, maybe some trust is broken down, and things aren't good. Instead of just letting it fester, they bring in a facilitator, and they use the celebrity interview structure to have a conversation.
So the facilitator is kind of like the team's Oprah, helping them figure out what's going on, find a way to move forward.
Haha, yeah, something like that. It creates that safe, structured space to have a real dialogue. People can share their perspectives, hear each other's stories, and you know what? They actually find that common ground.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It seems like this is such a versatile tool. You could use it in so many different situations.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just limited to like the workplace either. I've seen it used really effectively in communities, in schools, even with families.
Okay, I gotta be honest, you've got me wanting to try this out. But the part that makes me nervous is the facilitating part. What advice would you give to someone who's brand new to this? Like, where do they even begin?
Honestly, don't overthink it. This structure is designed to be simple, adaptable. You don't need a ton of equipment or a huge crowd. It's really about bringing genuine curiosity and being willing to create that safe space.
Okay, so start small, be curious, trust the process. Got it. But what about those moments when the conversation, starts to go off on a tangent? How do you keep things focused but still allow for that spontaneity?
That's where your skills as a facilitator come in.
Yeah.
You're kind of like a guide, gently steering the conversation, encouraging those thoughtful questions,
Yeah.
making sure everyone's voice is heard.
Oh, it's about finding that balance between
Yeah.
structure and flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be prepared, come with some good, engaging questions, but also be ready to adapt, follow the energy of the group.
And what about those pitfalls we talked about earlier? Like, what if you choose the wrong celebrity or people start asking superficial questions? How do you avoid those traps?
When you're picking your celebrity, think about, are they going to connect with this audience? Can they tell stories that resonate? And for the questions, really encourage people to go deeper. Ask those why and how questions, the kind that spark some real thinking.
So no more like, what's your favorite color questions?
Unless it leads to a really fascinating story. Remember, the goal is to uncover the why behind the what. Create that experience that's both informative and transformative.
Speaking of transformative, I'm curious, what have you learned from facilitating these celebrity interviews?
One of the biggest things for me has been the power of vulnerability. When the celebrity is willing to be open, share their struggles, their failures, their lessons learned, it creates this incredible connection with the audience.
It makes them more human, right? Like someone you can relate to.
Exactly. And it gives everyone else permission to do the same. And sometimes you get these really powerful moments of shared learning and growth. It's amazing.
It really does seem like it's more than just like a technique, doesn't it? It's like a whole philosophy of leadership and knowledge sharing.
I couldn't agree more. It's about moving away from that traditional expert on stage thing and really embracing something that's more collaborative, more human-centered.
And that's a message that I think is really resonating with me, and I hope with our listeners too. So as we start wrapping up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a little challenge.
I'm game. What's the challenge?
Think about your own world, work, community, family. Who would you love to interview using this structure? What burning questions would you ask them? And how could you use this technique to actually make a difference, like create some positive change in your world?
Those are really good questions. Everyone listening should really give those some thought.
Because you know what? The beauty of this whole celebrity interview thing is that it's not just a tool for experts, it's a tool for anyone who wants to learn, to connect, to make a difference.
Well said. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Hope you found this deep dive into the celebrity interview, helpful and inspiring.
And remember, always keep those minds curious and keep diving deep. All right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last two parts, really digging into the celebrity interview, this liberating structure that just flips the script on presentations. But here's the thing I'm thinking about. I don't want this to be one of those podcast episodes you just listen to and forget about.
I agree, yeah. It's got to be practical, right? We want people to be able to actually use this.
Exactly. So let's shift gears a little bit and get practical. If someone's listening and they're like, okay, I'm sold, but where do I start? What would you tell them?
Well, I think the first step is to just look around.
Yeah.
Look around and think about who are the celebrities in your world.
The celebrities.
Yeah. And I don't mean like actual celebrities. Think about your workplace, your community, your family even. Who are the people who have like this unique knowledge or special skills, maybe amazing experiences they can share?
Right. It's about recognizing those everyday experts that we have all around us, the people we don't always think of as celebrities.
Exactly. That coworker who always seems to have the answer, that community leader who inspires everyone, maybe your grandparent who have like a million stories. They all have something amazing to share.
Okay, so we found our celebrity. What's the next step? How do we make this celebrity interview thing actually happen?
Start by thinking about the context, I guess. What's the goal here? What are you hoping to achieve with this? Do you want to, I don't know, spark some new ideas in a team meeting? Get a conversation going at a community event? Or maybe you just want to capture some family stories, for the future.
I'm seeing the possibilities here. But, if I'm being totally honest, this facilitating part still feels a little bit intimidating. Any tips for someone who's like brand new to this?
You know what? Honestly, don't overthink it. Remember, this is supposed to be simple. It's adaptable. You don't need a fancy set or a ton of people.
Yeah.
It's really about that genuine curiosity and creating a space where people feel safe sharing their stories.
Okay, start small, be curious, Trust the process. I like it. But what about, those moments where the conversation maybe starts to drift a little bit? How do you keep things focused, but also, allow for that spontaneity?
That's where you come in as the facilitator.
Mm.
You're kind of like the guide, right? Gently steering things, encouraging those really good questions, making sure everyone feels heard.
It's like you're walking that tightrope between structure and flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. You come prepared, have those engaging questions ready, but you're also ready to go with the flow. See where the energy of the group takes you.
And what about those pitfalls? The stuff we talked about before, like choosing the wrong celebrity or having those really surface level questions. How do we avoid those traps?
Oh, when you're choosing your celebrity, think about it this way. Can they connect with the audience? Can they tell those stories that really resonate? And then with the questions, really encourage people to go beyond the surface. Ask those why questions, the how questions, the ones that really get people thinking.
No more. What's your favorite color?
Well, hey, unless that leads to some amazing story.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to get to that deeper level. You want to create something that's truly informative and maybe even, transformative.
Speaking of transformative, I'm curious, what have you learned from doing these celebrity interviews? What's been your biggest takeaway?
That's a good question. One of the biggest things for me has been just seeing the power of vulnerability. When that celebrity, whoever they are, when they're willing to open up, share their struggles, the things they've learned along the way, it creates such a deeper connection with everyone.
It makes them more human, right?
More relatable. Yeah, totally. And then everyone else in the room, they feel like they can do the same. And you get these amazing moments where, everyone's learning and growing together. It's pretty special.
It's really cool. It seems like this celebrity interview, it's more than just like a technique,
Yeah.
It's a whole different way of thinking about leadership, about how we share knowledge.
Absolutely. It's about shifting away from that traditional I'm the expert kind of model and moving towards something that's way more collaborative, more human.
And that's something I'm really resonating with, and I hope our listeners are too. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, this whole episode, I want to leave everyone with one final challenge.
Hit me with it.
Think about your world, your work, your community, your family. Who would you love to have a celebrity interview with? What are those burning questions you have for them? And then think about this. How could you use this whole technique to create some real positive change in your world?
Those are good questions to ponder for sure.
The amazing thing about the celebrity interview is that it's not just a tool for like the experts, the big leaders. It's something anyone can use. If you want to learn, connect, and make a difference, this is for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We hope you learned something new and, feel inspired.
And remember, keep those minds curious and keep diving deep.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.